Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here at Crypto Festa hosted by BTCC Korea and have invited Mr. Bobby Lee, the co-founder of BTCC. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, the presentation that you gave was very inspiring. So would you care to share that to our audience as well?
Yeah, I talked about Bitcoin as basically the topic of information as money. For the first time, we have information as money, meaning Bitcoin. We're in the 10th year of Bitcoin, and now we have information as money. What I mean by that is it's a new ownership model. So essentially, if you look at the present, before 2009, how do we own assets? How do we own things? There's only two ways to own it. It's ownership by title, ownership by title registration, meaning that people own real estate, they own their money in their bank accounts, they own stocks and bonds. All of that is tied to someone's real name identity. And that's called ownership by title. Whereas smaller things like watches, mobile phones, the jacket, eyeglasses, jewelry, it's owned by physical possession. You own it because by virtue you have it. Whether it's gold bars, red wine, or even artwork, so that's ownership by possession. So Bitcoin and cryptocurrency represents a new form of ownership. It's a new kind altogether. It's ownership by information where someone knows the private key, they know the password, they know the private key. So by knowing the private key to the Bitcoin account, you are effectively the owner of that Bitcoin in that Bitcoin account. So it's a brand new way of ownership. So it's very revolutionary.
So one downside of information-based ownership is that if you forget the information, you can't reclaim it, right?
Absolutely, you're right. Information as ownership, the downside is if you forget or you lose access to the device holding the private key, then you've essentially lost access to the asset class. But every asset has downside. With gold, someone can rob you. Your mobile phone, some people lose it, they leave it in the taxi, they lose it, and that's gone. With ownership by identity registration, it's under third-party control. So if you do something they don't like, they can seize or freeze your assets. So every asset class has downsides, and information by ownership is no exception.
But isn't fiat, don't governments have a system where it ensures its users or users of the fiat that if someone robs you or if someone commits a crime against you, that they ensure and back and support by infrastructural legal issues?
Well, in the sense that if money is, if the bank runs out of money, the government can print more money to fill your bank account. So that's just units of money, right? But what they haven't done, at least over the last 100 years, is they haven't really given us true value protection. If you want to store 1,000 euros in a bank account, or 1 million won in a bank account or more, we just don't know 20 years from now how much value that money is, because they're constantly printing more of that money, making more of the fiat money. It's not necessarily paper printing, but it's electronic printing, QE2, QE3. They're issuing more and more fiat money out there, and by doing so, it's devaluing your money. So that's the problem with money today.
Let's switch gears and move to a more recent topics.
Yeah.
So the Chinese government used to retain a conservative perspective. However, the situation got a bit harsher. They imposed bans on airdrops, and recently they had tax inspections which forced a mining facility to close down. So what's your perspective on the Chinese government taking conservative standpoints in the crypto industry itself?
Well, so I don't have a lot to comment on the Chinese government. I'm not a citizen, I'm not a voting member. In the government style in China, they can decide to set rules and laws as they wish. So it's not necessarily for public discourse or for debate. But the trend is evident. I think China has a reason to slow down and cap this sort of craziness with tokens and ICOs and all that.
So I came across a video where you explain about your investment portfolio. So, and then one of which consists of Bitcoin Cash. And Bitcoin Cash, it's November 15th today, when the fork happened. So there are two parties conflicting against the ideology behind Bitcoin. So what's your perspective on it? And if you do have it, which part you support, if I may be able to ask that question?
Yeah, Bitcoin Cash, I think the two sides are Bitcoin
ABC, yes.
ABC, and then it's Bitcoin SV. SV for Satoshi's vision, and ABC being the first reference client for Bitcoin Cash. So first of all, I have Bitcoin Cash. I support Bitcoin. So Bitcoin Cash, just like Bitcoin BTC, is a legitimate asset under the Bitcoin moniker. It's a legitimate child. It's a legitimate child under Bitcoin. So it's a fork. So in the sense that the upcoming Bitcoin Cash fork, I'm learning more about it myself. I don't plan to just support one and ignore the other. I will, by nature, all my Bitcoin Cash holdings will be on both chains if both chains do exist. Fundamentally, I think even though Craig Wright has been disruptive, people don't like him very much. He's not very sociable. At least I haven't met him in person, but that's a perception. And but however, he does have merit. I think his intentions are interesting. So I'm interested to see what Bitcoin SV does.
So, is it okay if I ask your take on the comment that Craig Wright he claims to be the Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yeah, I think he's one of the three people that's part of Satoshi Nakamoto. Absolutely.
So moving on to, since we're here in CryptoFest that was hosted by BTCC Korea, moving on to the exchange itself, the large theme that BTCC Korea has is IEOs. And as a competition, one of the new concepts in the industry is mining exchanges. So if you don't mind me asking, what's your perspective on the mining exchanges itself, which is a rising concept, and how the IEO would benefit the crypto industry?
I don't like the term. I think IEO is just a speculative marketing gimmick term. I think just like ICO was initially as well. I think just because the bad name of ICOs, they just changed the name to IEOs. To me, it's all the same thing. It's all tokens. It's all centralized. To me, this is not very interesting at all. I'm not a big supporter of tokens or IEOs or ICOs for that matter. I think the innovation. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I think what's most interesting to me over the last 7 years that I've been involved in the industry is actually Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin as the world's first and most relevant decentralized digital asset class. It's a new ownership model. It's about freedom of money. I think that's where the action should be. That's where the innovation is. That's where the value is. However, there's a sideshow circus of tokens, pump and dumps, of MLMs, multi-level marketing schemes, and a lot of mediocre projects are trying to fundraise using ICOs, IEOs, just giving them new names. To me, that's not very interesting. I think good business models can succeed without ever doing an ICO, without ever doing blockchain-related stuff. Most of the blockchain projects out there are all fake blockchain or all private, fake database versions. If they actually came out and truthfully tell us they're using database implementation, I'd give them 2 thumbs up. But the fact that they get confused of what blockchain is, I think it's very damning, very telling.
So you being a Bitcoin maximalist, I have to ask you, Bitcoin, the network itself there have been limitations that have been proposed in the industry, such as slow speed or high fees. So, and the Bitcoin core team has introduced technologies to overcome that. However, there seems to be some struggle in the overcoming the aforementioned hurdles. So if you don't mind me asking, how should the Bitcoin core community overcome the hurdles that they are facing right now in the network?
Well, are you talking about the Bitcoin community or the Bitcoin core? Bitcoin core is a development group.
I'd say the Bitcoin core because they're developing the applications, services necessary to the Bitcoin network.
So I'm a supporter of Bitcoin in general. Bitcoin BTC, Bitcoin BCH, all the legitimate children of Bitcoin. And it's a natural market. There's competing dev groups and ideologies. So I don't want to comment too specifically about a specific implementation, a specific technical plan. Whether it gains market acceptance is for the market to decide. So I don't have any specific comments on that.
And one interesting comment I heard from you was that you are not very much support of the concept of token. However, it's something that can't be detached with the technology of blockchain.
No, it's okay. So tokens are fine, right? Subways have tokens. That's fine. Game arcades use tokens. That's fine. What I'm not in support of, what I'm against, is companies, institutions issuing tokens as a form of investment fundraising. I think that is insincere, and I think it's fraud. I think companies, whether it's a New York subway system, they should issue, you should get investment money by issuing stock equity or get loans by issuing debt. I think those are legitimate ways to raise funds. But issuing utility tokens, or issuing equity tokens disguised as utility tokens for the purpose of raising money and then telling people that the value of the utility tokens will go up over time, I think that's very insincere and fraudulent.
Well, that's an interesting point. I have to kind of like think about that. But
A lot of people don't like what I say, but I'll speak my mind.
So moving to your personal issues, it's your year off, and the last time I interviewed you, you said you were writing a book. So finishing up on the interview, I have to ask you, how's the book coming along?
No, it hasn't moved along at all. I want to do something in that area in the coming years. Yeah.
And your future plans, maybe?
So nothing planned yet. I'm still looking around. A lot of people ask me to join or to advise or to help with their projects, but frankly speaking, nothing has been exciting to me yet. So.
Well, that is all the time we have today, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. That was Mr. Bobby Lee, the co-founder of BTCC. Thank you for watching.